Good morning and welcome to the last season of season one, the last episode of Titan Talks. And today we are going to be speaking about family enterprise, family business. And we have Ryan Lewis, who is one of the second generation, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, family business directors, co-owners, I assume, shareholding. So it's a fantastic perspective to really delve into that. But before we get to Ryan, it's interesting facts. A survey was conducted by one of the largest family business organizations in the world in December 2020. And can you imagine, only 21% of family businesses say that they require additional capital in 2020. When the unicorns of the world, the tech companies, are raising IPOs, and raised a record of $3.6 trillion on the stock markets and various forms of venture capitalist funding, et cetera, and I think it reflects a mentality. It reflects a mindset that where I believe that the strengths of family businesses are overlooked. And, we always look to these unicorns, as we call it, that the stock market follows, that we want to invest in and get X amount of gains. But it did show that when the financial crisis happened in 2009, the world actually looked to family businesses to rebound and to build opportunity, especially in a shattered world economy. And this is also so for COVID, for post-COVID recovery. So I do believe that this conversation today is going to be fantastic and invigorating and full of fantastic facts. And we jump into Chris to really take it over to introduce Ryan.
So Mr. Ryan Lewis, our guest here on Titan Talks, is an executive director of Label House Group Limited, a family-run business. Ryan leads LH's sales department with customers throughout the Caribbean and South American region, and also oversees the company's ongoing expansion efforts into emerging markets. Mr. Ryan Lewis serves as the Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association Board of Directors, and is a council member of the NCSD Working Group for the EMA. Previously, Ryan held the position of General Manager and Marketing Manager at Restaurants Holdings Limited, introducing several international brands such as Burger King and Popeyes, and developed those promotional programs to drive traffic and build ticket average and develop in these brand identities. Ryan holds an MBA in Marketing and Finance from the University of Miami and is an alumni of Fatima College and a sports enthusiast. He also loves football. Ryan, you went to Fatima, you didn't go to my school, QRC, but I'll forgive you for that. But welcome to Titan Talks.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Thank you very much, Melissa, for having me on the show. Looking forward to today's program for sure.
Yeah. So, one thing is I'd like to just kind of delve into, Mel talked about it a bit, this family-run business. Kind of tell us a little bit about that and, some of the dynamics that go on there.
Well, family type business is the most interesting dynamic because, our business is 43 years old, okay? And from the time we were growing up, we were always told you're not allowed to come any family business. And we never understood why. So our family business was started by my uncle, and then my dad joined, and then my other uncle joined 20 years later. So the three of them are in there, and they're the first generation. And they were initially, the idea was done through my grandfather. It was funded through my grandfather in partnership with my uncle. And the idea was the reason there was no second generation or no one else was to join the company is because they wanted us to chart our own course. Mm-hmm. They didn't want us to just fall into the family business, as they call it. And we never kind of understood why. We're like, well, we want to work for Label House. Label House is what, what it's all about. I mean, we want to be part of the legacy. And for many, many years, we never, we would just go up there. It would be, we'd understand the business, but we were never part of it. And, 5, 6 years ago, I was working for Restaurant Holdings, and and they asked us to join the board. So my cousin and I to join the board. And I said, well, this is interesting.
Yes.
You all said nobody's allowed. And what it was is that they reached a point where they realized, well, succession planning has to take place. A family business reaches a crossroad. You either move to sell out, so you get professional management and you move to selling out the business, or you look to longevity and you start to talk about succession planning, either within the family or professional management. And so what they said is, as we're at a crossroads, let's bring 2 family members in to join the board and understand the business and see if this is possible, if
Yes.
this is where we want to go. And it is, as you said, the dynamic is interesting because you go to a board meeting and then you're not speaking to, just your other coworkers, you're speaking to your family, and you have to, how do you separate that? Let's say you have I don't want to call it an argument. Let's say you have a discussion that gets
Yes.
heated, that's thing, and then after you have to turn around and say, well, hi uncle, coming by you later,
Drinks. I'm coming by for drinks and to eat your barbecue as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
How do you balance that, those things? Because I believe that obviously it requires a certain level of emotional intelligence. Like, I mean, personally, how is it that you deal with those type of things?
Well, I think when it first started, again, when I first joined the company 6 years ago, you want to obviously impress, because this is your uncles, these are your mentors growing up. You really want to impress everybody, and you take every comment to heart. So you really just, it's hard. It's very hard. You have to have an emotional intelligence, and I do remember that I didn't when it first started. So I used to take a lot of it home, and I used to come with my dad. I'm like, I can't believe how he spoke to me that way, my uncle. And he's like, well, you're gonna have to toughen up and tell him how you think, and grow as a person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry. Go on.
no, you go ahead.
You mentioned 2 critical points. You mentioned legacy,
Mhm.
and you mentioned succession planning. And the only way I could see legacy truly being built out is through succession planning. But we are in such uncertain times, where transitioning from first generation to second generation, and even within your company, at least you guys have a board, which is a lot more than most family businesses have. I mean, I would speak for mine. I'm literally now starting and the recognition, oh my gosh, I need to build a board. So I'm now going out and reaching out to build out this board, and to ensure, like, I'm already thinking about succession, who's coming after me, because I'm leading at the moment and it's exhausting to lead, and that's how you would build out and ensure legacy for future generations, So I guess the question is, how is it, if someone's listening right now, how you just started a company and you are transitioning from any generation to any generation, and that is extremely tricky. Let's say you have no consultants, how are you dealing with that? How are you dealing with that emotionally, from a business perspective, from a physical and spiritual perspective, holistically?
If I had that answer, I'd probably be a billionaire by now.
Would you?
Because family businesses, I mean, the handover or the transition of power in a family business is like no other dynamic. It's like it's something that it takes governance. It does. So you talk about board. When I joined, it was a strong board, and we had made a move to kind of move the board to an executive board, more family driven. And I think what
Okay.
we've kind of lost with that is exactly that. This
Governance.
independent governance of that you have to have in your room, that has to remove family from family business, and that's important.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What type of, I mean, obviously you talked about arguments and you changed it to like discussions. You're stepping into a role where I suppose there's been an operation that has acted independent of you for 36 or 37 years. And you are now inside there. You have, a great background, you're coming in and you have all these ideas from your MBA and from also working in other companies. with big international brands, and now you're trying to bring these revolutionary ideas into it. Tell me of a specific, maybe you could just be general, but of a situation where it is you like, hey, well, this is what we can do to optimize, to make a better profit. And then, we could take me through like the resistance to the momentum, to the final end result, and how it is that you overcome some of those obstacles.
So one of the biggest issues with legacy businesses is agility. So the ability to quickly turn to, whether it's today's digital transformation, or if it's new product lines, or if it's optimizing of machinery, or if it's downsizing of your staff to be more systems driven. All of those things come with issues. You have this Titanic that's moving along, and every time you try to tack a little bit here, it takes so long that by the time you've made the tack, you have to make another one, because you have to try and figure out, okay, well, now we are behind the ball. So I can give like an example is digital transformation for our company.
Yes.
So crazy enough, a lot of our original founders, my dad and my uncles, are very technology driven. So being 68 and 70 doesn't mean that they don't understand WhatsApp, they don't understand e-commerce, they don't understand. They're very, very in the know, and they like to be. However, what happens is there's a limitation to that, and the limitation is risk. So they would go to a certain point, or the board would go to a certain point and not be prepared to just jump in on it. No, that's a baby boomers mentality, etc. There's a lot of analysis and over analysis, and what I call analysis paralysis, where
Yes,
by the time they've made the decision is so far away from what we actually wanted to do. They take away all the risks, they mitigate. And what we've come out with is a much smaller, less risky, more palatable way forward. That's what has happened in the past. And that's why
okay.
we are trying to change that dynamic. And you have to have the ability to say, we're going to go for it. And I think that's a hard part of family businesses, to just say, let's go.
What you identify there is the reason why one of the reasons why a family business can last that long, because the risk aversion. That's the reason why I believe once you pass the 20-year mark, that thinking, that safe thinking, is the reason why you can make it 43 years, you can make it 50. However, of course, it's a downside. The PwC report, I'm just going to quote this very quickly. Family businesses around the world, I'm speaking about generational, some of them are 7th, 8th family, 8th generation. It's spectacular, right? 79% of these companies are economic resilient, right? However, their progress in the digital transformation is 38%. So that, what you just described there, Ryan, is ultimately exactly what's happening with your family. Strong profitability, cash flow from a numbers perspective, strong, but it's a matter of how do you balance that risk. It's like, what's the purpose? What is the goal of it? And I guess it comes back to that. What is your strategic plan? What's your purpose?
Yeah.
So
I read something before this morning, because I was thinking about this whole concept around second generation. Normally they always talk about second generation spends it out, and it always, the success rate after second generation is like 23%.
Yep.
And the reason is, when you read it, is that entrepreneurial business is more successful when you have entrepreneurial family, meaning the business itself, the legacy business, must create enough value and growth, not for a second generation to come in and work in it, but to use that value to create more entrepreneurial businesses. And if that is not the family goal, it will always fail, or will have a very high rate of failure. So Label House has been 43 years. It's built value. It's built, we all live a certain life, but what has it built in terms of creating value to the next generation to create their own path? But like I talked about at the start, we said, I don't want you to work in the business. And that's what they're trying to say. You're supposed to be able to create an entrepreneurial family.
Understand.
All right.
Okay.
So
like
tell me,
branch then.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me something. I mean, so obviously you have this this organization, this company, and what are your offshoots? So what are the branches, as Melissa is saying? What are the branches that you guys have gone in to for strategic relationships? For the innovation, because you guys are doing packaging, y'all are doing those type of solutions all over the place. But what is kind of, how is it that you're putting the block on top in generally with respect to your business?
So I think that's where we have not done well enough as a business. As a
Yes.
family, however, and this is kind of what excited me about what I read this morning, is that we have created entrepreneurs. So,
Okay.
my cousin, my first cousin, she is a Mare Probiotics. She has her own company and she runs it on her own, has no affiliation with Label House, but uses the mindset and the packaging and those ideas around it, high level packaging, best on shelf, all of that, to create a brand. Then my other cousin, all in within the same family, started Sweet Beet. So Sweet
Okay.
Beet has all of the juices, has his stores, now has his pumpkin seeds, doing excellent, in growing this new organic, very, high end product.
Yeah.
And all of these are offshoots that are not owned by Label House, but they are owned by the
Yes.
family. You know,
Yes.
um, so that's where I've seen the best offshoots and strategy coming from. Um, Unfortunately, I think what we should have done, not it's not can't still happen. What we should have done as a family business is find a way to use what we know about brand building and value chain, and taken the packaging and connected it with manufacturers, and created some brands on our own. But I think that's being done successfully, as I said, by
Right.
by the family, and so that's why I think we have to
So one of
continue.
these,
Go ahead.
yeah. So one of these themes there, I'll interject there because I think it's the right place. Is the theme for season one was this Carol Dweck book, right? Mindsets, and there's this aspect of fixed versus growth mindset, and I almost feel like what you've described is transitioning. The older heads who understand what it means to build a business over 30 or 40 years, and trying to kind of inject this growth mindset, this transformational aspect, where what is the next step so that we can be around for another 43 years? You want to obviously be talking to your kids, or your grandkids, and be saying, well, here what, I didn't really want you to be part of the business, but here's one out of the six, six subgroups, right? So let's talk about maybe your perspective, maybe a personal aspect. We talked a little bit before about you being in Miami. I think you told me you went to FIT, and then you got your MBA at the University of Miami. What are some of your experiences, the challenges that you've had that have developed this mentality that you're now introducing into the business? So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think I guess that's where it comes back to the agility and the fast pace, because I think in Trinidad we get comfortable. I do remember when I spoke at a CIC. They had a CIC round table, and I was invited. And one of the things I said to the students, the Form 6 students, was that I thought that private sector in Trinidad was lazy. And there's 5 other speakers, 2 being ministers, and the second page in the Guardian was CMA vice president says private sector is lazy.
But it's true. I agree with you.
And a lot of people agreed with me, Melissa, but
Yeah.
it doesn't go over well when you call the private sector lazy.
The truth is the truth, It hurts.
Truth is, the
If you're
truth is-
fat and lazy, that's it. I'll even add another adjective. But anyway, you go on.
So I thought, when you even, okay, so going from Melbourne just shows you, I can tell you. So in Melbourne, Florida, where I did my undergrad, I would say that's Trinidad, and in Miami is the rest of the dynamic world, because Melbourne, Florida have a lot of older people. They're making their money. They have family businesses. They've made business money for a long time. They're comfortable. It's lifestyle businesses, right? But in
Yes.
Miami, you have to survive. You have to have that hunger, And so when I look around Trinidad and I look at all the lifestyle businesses and I look at all the people who are just comfortable in their position, I get concerned. So I when I look to inject it in here, and when I get passionate in my business and in my board meetings. I always say that when we do strategic plans, say, okay, where are we going? And you will start here, well, we can go into this new line of packaging. And then my dad, funny enough, always says, but I don't want to hear that. I want to assume that's not there in 3 years. Assume printing is not there in 3 years. Where are we going to be? Are we going to be developers? Are we going to be, this? Are we going to be doing IT? What are we going to be doing? And if we don't have a plan, chances are we're going to fail, whether you've been around for 43 years or not.
Yeah.
I think businesses now, it doesn't matter what your product is or your service is. We need to have this mentality that we are technology companies, manufacturing in my mindset, producing or creating a product, because technology scales and it's changing so rapidly that if we don't embrace that, we're going to be irrelevant. And I consider it, even for my sector in baking, like irrelevant, like unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Ryan. 1000%.
Yeah, what is some? I'm kind of interested. Obviously, your company was one that printed certain types of designs for whether it be Blue Waters or or Burger King or Carib, but now I'm just kind of wondering, as in for a business that, and this is obviously just a lay person, I'm coming out here. So for a business that does printing and is putting packages, printing on packages or printing on bottles or printing on these physical things, what's the step in your mind? I mean, this is obviously a big question. Is it that, last week we were talking about
NFTs and crypto.
NFTs, right? And these identifiable, things that now developers are selling as a brand, and it's these fungible assets are things that can be transferred or can be bought. Is that the next big step for obviously I'm being a little bit cheeky here.
No, I think there's no harm in being cheeky. I mean, if I'm not thinking like that, then again, the same failure rate will be there.
Yes.
NFTs. I saw Gabriel he bought a painting NFT. It was brilliant. A really nice turtle and all that. And after seeing it, I started to read a little more, and it's all around it's all around IP and ownership of these things digitally now, and ledgering and I'll tell you all, I'm not big on the understanding of cryptocurrency. I do understand the basics, and I do understand the need, and I understand NFTs now. But to understand packaging and how we look at it, and what has been transformed, because again, you ask anybody what Label House does, they just say, well, they do labels. Okay, great, but that's the end of it. And we do so much more than that. I mean, yes, has been the mainstay, has been the long run, day in, day out. But when Sheraco came around 5 years ago, which is called variable printing, people are like, oh wait, you can do a different label on each bottle and find it out there easily, and and then it just did it again. You see it out there, and then we do what's called sleeving, where we do a white oak bottle, a custom Angostura white oak bottle, or we do all of these CPL cans. We started to get a little more into, okay, this is a little more dynamic than just a Blue Waters label on a bottle or Oasis label on a bottle. There's more that can be done. So art. So I'll give you an example about art, as you talk about the Gabriel and so forth. In Belize, we took 12 artists in Belize and got their artwork and put it on sleeved the bare bottles.
Beautiful.
Sleeved the bare bottles, and they did an entire promotion around it, right? And it was a keepsake. Now, I'll give you a real, even greater example about that. Is that what it was? The solution was that the bottles that they had, they're called scuff. The bottles were scuffed, meaning that it goes through a process of recycling. It reaches its end point. You can either get rid of them, they're still good use, but on the outside is scuffed, or you can sleeve them and get them off the island. So it was a duty-free item. So it was something where like people would come in, and when they leave Belize, so it's a take home. So it's two purposes. Imagine packaging is solving an issue you have of a million bottles in storage.
Understood.
So, all right, wow.
That's
so
beautiful.
The dynamic idea behind packaging is so much more nowadays than labeling. What's the big one now is called the unboxing experience. So you've seen all the time. So
Yeah, I've seen all this. Yeah, yeah.
We do that. We've been doing that we did the cocoa bitters. We've done a lot of those with brands, and it's just something that when I was on a call the other day, like a international call about this, it is so much bigger than we know. Like we just talk about like influencers at home. I don't know if any of y'all seen on YouTube, but they have kids who get paid millions
Yeah.
to
Yes.
unbox toys
Yep.
and talk about the toy inside for other kids to see and play with it.
Yeah,
Like,
I've been seeing certain brands do that. Yeah, in Trinidad and Tobago, that's now our Trini influencers. They're taking out the bottle of alcohol or this, and thank you this brand or thank you that brand. Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So tell me what obviously I think that every person that has these type of revolutionary, like big thinking, are guided by other thought leaders. Like what are you reading? I always ask this question coming down to the end. What are you reading? What is it that is inspiring you? I understand the inspiration is from you too, but what is who's walking with you, the intellectual thought leaders that are walking with you? What's on your bookshelf?
Well, that's hard. Funny enough, our team has been focusing a lot around, our executive been focusing a lot about teamwork. So every Monday, every 2 weeks, we have these team leadership sessions. So
yes,
we have a lot of reading to do for that. And there's a guy named Patrick Lencioni, and you should look him up because it's all around two things. Something that's called the working genius, right?
Okay.
And we all have what's called working geniuses. So you have 6 things. You have your working genius, which you're really good at, right? Then you have the compliance. So you meaning you're good at it, you could do it, but you don't use it. And then you have what's called a working frustration. So things that it would just set you off. So working genius is just really about understanding how to use those. That's one of the things we've been working on. And another one is the 5 dysfunctions of a team, which is, again, all relevant to what I'm doing now. So if you're asking me, there's also somebody that I think you all should sign up for, and it's free. It's called Darren Hardy. I don't know if you'll ever heard of it.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Yes.
He has that every morning. It's a 5-minute, Darren Daily. It is.
Yeah.
It's excellent. I mean, it's
something. So you do you do the podcast and the those 5 minutes kind of.
He only recently added it to being a podcast. He before was a great model. I mean, I don't know if you all know it, but the model is he puts up a daily. He sends you an email with a daily 5-minute blurb, but you have 3 days to listen to it. After 3 days, it expires. Right? Yeah. And it was good because you were like, shoot, I didn't want to miss a message. So I thought he kind of lost that when he did the podcast because I was like upset when I missed. Like you have a countdown, so you have 26 minutes to look at it. It was gone. So it was actually a quite brilliant marketing technique.
Wow, yeah.
We have 2 questions in. We have 2 questions in from Facebook. So the first one, what do you think it would take to change the mindsets of the private sector in Trinidad, and is it even possible?
One, I'm gonna ask the second part. Yes, it's possible. I definitely believe so. What I think it will take is I think it will take a unification of all the private sector, meaning we all have to open up our cards, open our doors and say, guys, this is my real issues. Because nobody wants to share the data. Nobody wants to share the information. So we have to come out and say, all right, this is not me versus, and I'm going to use 2 companies, and if they're on the call, I'm sorry, but it should not be about Sunshine Snacks versus Holiday. They should be working together, say, Sunshine Snacks and Holiday, we're going to fight against the Cadburys and Lindors of the world. We can't continue. We have to stop competing locally and start joining together and competing globally. That's the only way private sector is gonna improve.
It's like me coming to you and saying, you know what, in order for me to Pascal's Bakery, to really launch Sultan Foods, I have to partner with Ryan and Label House to really create something impactful, which I plan to do, mind you, in next coming because it's the only way, as you identify, it's a long value chain. It's obvious.
Yeah, we thought we thought we were gaining something, and Mel is like, wait a second, I see all these connections. This will work for my business, which actually,
Absolutely.
you are actually weaving. One of the things that I was kind of like a thought bomb. You're weaving this I was like, oh wow, I never thought that way. When you were describing of how it is that it's like, Chris, this is not only about labeling. This is what it is that we're doing. I was like, wow, and that is the big thing. That is the growth mindset.
It is.
So.
And Sergio Pengal has another question. We have plenty of questions for you, Ryan. So what advice would you give the young entrepreneur who's just taking over and starting to run their family business?
Well, I think if he's taking over, the first thing I would do is not try to start by ruffling the feathers. I think what we all try to do, and I saw it firsthand, is that I came in and I just tried to change. Then all I'm going to do is change. You have to remember that a family business, a legacy business, succeeded for a reason. So you have to chart the course to say, all right, plan it out in chunks. In short term, this is what I'm going to attack. We have an issue with financing, or we have an issue where we're not marketed well, and this is the outcome I see from it, and just chart your growth. If you chart your growth properly and you put it together, and then get the buy-in, because if you try to be a renegade, I guarantee you all you're going to get is frustration, and you're going to become despondent, and you're just not going to want to be part of it. And actually, there's a lot of people, and I heard it just yesterday, who are leaving their family businesses and now the businesses are going for sale. What happens is they, as I said, they come in, they have these grand ideas, and they forget what, as you said, what wove that business to start with, right? So if you don't chart it properly, you don't get buy-in, you don't understand how it can be achieved, that is going to be the biggest problem. Now, as you said, when you first start, I remember the first executive board meeting I went to, my dad said, look, you're on the board now. Your first board meeting is the most important. I said, all right, great. What do I say? He says, nothing.
Nothing.
He said, you come into the board meeting and you say nothing. You listen. You listen your first board meeting, you take notes and you listen. I said, but I want to contribute it. I can only give you my piece of advice. You listen, right? And that is the greatest asset you could have when it comes to a board meeting to start, and you start to build, as I said, the charge you want, the where you want to go, and then you start to speak up. So
you kind of
question.
you're it's like to gain more knowledge, you have to lessen the ego. I think Albert Einstein actually said that, and basically your father told you a very, very philosophical statement. He's like, cool it until you know.
Quite different to like fake it till you make it, but it's really Listen, you said you have one mouth and two ears. There's a reason for that.
Yes, that's a Chronic song. I really like Chronics. I don't know if you guys know this, a regular artist, Chronics. And he has, and the song is just that you have two ears and one mouth. It's beautiful. We have a next question for you. I'm not sure who this is from. In your experience, as someone who has worked with companies both locally and internationally, what is your opinion on starting a local business with a global focus?
What my opinion is, go for it. I think you have to start, any business that starts today has to think outward in, meaning whatever you're creating, if it's a product or a service, start with the mindset of servicing outside. Think of your package being on a shelf in Walmart, in Tesco's, and don't think about just Trinidad. And some people might say, well, why you? I'm not putting down Trinidad, guys. I'm just saying our economy is only this big. Global economy is where you want to be. And if you can put together a product that would succeed globally, I can guarantee you it'll succeed here. You know why? Because if you look at our food import bill, we are happy to import products from out there and happy to buy that over our local for whatever reason, because they think it's better. I'm saying to you, always think outside in. If you could put together a product or service, that's what I would do. And I would tell you, I've gone through a process, and I'll give it just 10 seconds. I started to start my own business on TT BizLink. I wanted to see ease of doing business, how hard it is to start my own business. And I can tell you all, it's a lot of work if just to get the documentation right. It's a lot of work and it's very interesting. I can't improve
Yeah,
that, by the way. I'm going to talk to them about improving it because if you're just a startup, it could be a daunting task. It
yeah,
could be a
yeah.
daunting
They
task.
just need the right people. I mean, definitely to
Mentorship
assist you with
is
that.
actually the biggest thing this country needs. So somebody, the question earlier about private sector, big brother holding little brother's hand, mentoring smaller companies, and their success is our success. So
Yeah.
if we could get that ecosystem going, massive.
And you know what, Ryan? It starts with this little talk we have here. I don't want to say little, this impactful conversation that we are having, where this little thing is building trust. And all of a sudden, I'm in my mindset is committed to reaching out to you further to say, how can we collaborate? To make something grander that we can reach outward, as you said. And one thing you identified about creating more collaborative experiences. Can you imagine there's an organization, Family Businesses Internationally, is out of Belgium, I believe it is, or Switzerland. And you can imagine there is no Caribbean chapter. It's called Family Business Network. And I have reached out to form a Caribbean or Trinidadian chapter where we can literally change this lifestyle business mentality to actually think about how can we create generational businesses that can create generational thinking. We're not thinking for
And
now.
wealth.
We're thinking about wealth. We're thinking about 3 generations down the line because it is possible. But we have to work as a unit,
Yeah.
So
I totally agree, and,
yeah.
and I'll join absolutely, and I'll help you. I'll help you. Form
Beautiful.
it. I think it's so badly needed. I remember Annette Rahal was doing courses on family businesses. She
Yes,
actually would right. I haven't seen it for quite a while, but she's an expert in that. I mean, she's
absolutely.
fantastic in it. You know,
Maybe something the TTA could bring out, or maybe reach out to her to see if that's something that can prove valuable to all of us. You know what I mean?
yeah, because I mean, one of my concerns in the manufacturing and private sector is this life cycle where the not just the product but company life cycles are, and you have to start. I would start. People need to start reaching out because let's say somebody there's an older gentleman who doesn't have anybody who want any family who wants to take it over. What is going to happen to those businesses? How do we help those businesses find the young entrepreneur who says, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something. And you can say, well, there's a guy down there who's making shirts and he just doesn't want to do it anymore, but the business is lucrative. It has growth potential if you had passion.
But he has
Why
no
don't you all
books,
speak
he
to him?
has no documentation, and that's a problem, right? So we need to bridge that gap. That's a
Yeah.
gap that needs to be bridged, and I guess it's people like us who understand what it is and what it is to really hold that hand and be that connector. Oh my God, we have one more question, boy. You're firing all cylinders this morning. Okay.
Yes.
It goes. Is a proudly local brand the embodiment of what you describe as Big Brother holding Little Brother's hand?
Yes. So Proudly TNT was Chris Alcazar is actually one when he was the president of TTMA who really drove this home. We had a buy local campaign that he really didn't like how that came across. It's not about just buy local. It's actually embrace local businesses and our culture. So it's something that I mean you see it in Jamaica. Jamaica, the most passionate people, they wear their country on their sleeve.
Yeah.
And we would say, that only happens when sports comes around. It's when West Indies playing or when Trinidad playing, is when you really hear people start speaking up. And we say, why is that? Why aren't we talking about our brands? Why aren't we all have family members that work in these companies? Why aren't we, talking about, cheese sticks as that's my favorite, that's my brand, that's my country, cricks, all these things, Angostura bitters, everything that's what we have pride in is what it's about. And now the shift actually now is about how do we as a culture fix all the ingrained issues that we have, whether it be domestic violence and band together to be a proud Trinidadian and say, we want to unify, come together. And you see, and I talk about like private sector, it's all about that coming together with just one goal, guys. We want to be better. Trinidadians want to be better. And if that means that we have to fix the foreign exchange, that's making us better. If it is that we have to less reliance on government, that makes us better. More, so that's the essence, that's the foundation of it. If it doesn't come across like that, I really would like more feedback from everyone to say, look, I think you should do things a little different, because I think Proudly TNT was built on that. That's what we wanted it to be. So
well, Mel, this is the longest episode.
Sorry.
But it's the last one, so we finished with a bang.
Yeah. Can you imagine, Chris? We have another question from Sean De Freitas. Sean is firing. This is the last question. Are we gonna pose it? Do companies want or even look to create partnerships with other companies? How do you go about creating these partnerships?
Well, you see, I would like to tell you that there's some organization that's sitting down looking to create partners. That doesn't happen. So it really has to be companies. You have to step up and say, I see synergies. Like, I'll give you an example. So if I turn around, I told Melissa, I think y'all should get into this, right? Because there was a product that I thought she should get into, and she said, yes, well, we're thinking about that, but that costs a lot. We might have some investment in a new line to do it, whatever. And I say, well, I see the opportunity. I would like to partner with you. I don't think she would turn around and say, no, I have no interest in partnering with you. I think she would say, well, let's have a discussion. So to me, I do think companies are willing to partner. I do think we have to be more open about it. I do think we have to come out in more forums and be like, I am looking for a packaging company because I need to bring down my costs. I want to stop buying from China. And somebody's to put up their hands and say, let's partner. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about...
Put my hands up. Because that's me.
Ryan is engaging in the growth mindset right now. It's like, let us grow together.
I agree. I mean, it's the only thing so beautiful. It's like, yeah, I'm with you, brother.
So I do think as I said, we have to be more vocal about the partnerships. I do think that there is a lot of opportunities. I do think the biggest issue, I will tell you, that companies have in this country, and as I know we talk about ease of doing business, but I think funding is another huge one. People coming forward and say, look, I don't have the funding. To get to the next level, the growth mindset, to get to the next level, I need $1 million. And where do I find it? And then you have to open your books and say, I'm prepared to give up some of my business to do so.
Yeah.
With 90% of companies in Trinidad, and it's just a culture thing. They say, I'm not giving up anything. I'm not giving any of my business.
Yeah.
I'd rather take a loan. I'd rather take a loan and go into debt than give you any of my business. We can never grow that way. Grow that way. Jamaica, by the way, when you see Jamaicans line up on the street for a junior stock exchange IPO, you'll understand where we need to be.
Can I end on this note with Jamaica and Trinidad? So I was using Google Trends. I don't know if I said this before. And you can imagine Jamaica is in the top 5 in Google Trends. Of course, this is worldwide global statistics. Searching the word entrepreneurship, family business, family enterprise business. And they're searching, where's Trinidad? Where are we? Nowhere to be found. Do you know where we Trinidadians are? We research anxiety, depression. That's a reflection of our society. That is where we are. And again, we can see it because of this conversation we are having. All the drawback, all the constraints that we are speaking about is the core. Is that. So we have a lot of work to do.
All right. Okay. Well, but again, Ryan, thank you so much. I think this was a great way to wind up season 1 of Titan Talks. And Melissa, thanks so much. I think that this was a great guest. The last 7 or 8 episodes have been spectacular, and we've finished with a bang. So Ryan, thank you so much again.
Thank you all so much for having me, Melissa. Thank you for asking me to do it. I really enjoyed it, guys. I'm sorry I made it run long. I know I like it.
No, I think that we needed this. We needed this at the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. Guys, amazing. I'm pumped for the day. I'm like, yes, let's go out and partner and collaborate and let's go. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Thanks so much,
Bye,
guys. All right.
Thanks a
Bye-bye.
lot.